Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuits, one half of the team that powers Dungeonswag.com. The +5 cleaver of liking and subscribing encourages you to do just that. And today, I want to show you something I made in a short, or something that I didn't make in a short, that I showed in a short. And that's bedrolls. RPG bedrolls, good for 28mm miniatures. You can scale these up if you're working with a different size. So what you basically want to do is get a rough size of how you think your bedroll is going to be. Take off your corners. And then we don't want this to be a perfect, because remember, every day they unroll this. And this is like a, their blanket and stuff's in this, their winter blanket and everything. This is not something they're, pardon me, that looks like it just came out of a package. This is something that a medieval person has made and is selling, and it's probably made out of rough materials. There's probably a lot of burlap in it. It may have feathers for stuffing, but likely it has a small thin layer of cloth with another small thin layer of cloth with some sawdust in it, or maybe just an additional piece of thicker material. So we don't know exactly what these are made out of, but we know that they're not modern construction. I was actually not there, believe it or not. Grab a, ow, you bad word. Grab a file and we'll kind of round those corners a little better so they don't look so cut in factory. I don't know if you guys can see well. Let me look up here. Yeah, it looks like you can see. Alright, so we want our basic shape. This is thin foam sheets. I don't know exactly where that comes from, but this is good for pillows, blankets, or whatever. So we're going to use it as a pillow, because I know even when I was in the Army, I was always trying to find something to use as a pillow. I can never just sleep with my head on the ground. So whether it was my helmet or my vest or something I had, like for a while I had a little camo pillow that I eventually lost somewhere or had to leave behind for whatever reason. But actually there's a faster way to do this. Look at that. Now it looks like some little rough thing that burns your hand. Alright, so we're just going to get a tiny dab of hot glue on that. Now we don't want this stuff to stick up or peel up while we're working on it and painting it, so make sure you get enough glue on there that you can rub it around a little bit and get it all everywhere. You don't want to just, So you can either use another piece of this and fold it over to show that it's a blanket or however you want to do, or you can get a piece of real material, which I think is what we're going to try. And this will take longer to dry. But I think this is going to be an interesting look for us because it's real fabric, and it'll look a little more realistic, I hope. Now, their blankets were likely, like their winter blankets and stuff, were likely not hardcore, amazing stuff you would buy at JCPenney's, Kaufman's, or Sears, or whatever. Their stuff was probably more like, your grandma made this and it's been passed down. It was not looking beautiful. And then we want to fold it over to add a little more detail to it. Thin line of glue on that. Okay. And we're just going to whack off anything extra we didn't need. We don't want this to be a perfectly square blanket. So now that we have it done, there's two things we need to do. One, we're going to have to prime it in some form. And it's obvious that we're not going to be able to use spray paint because we used that thin sheet of foam from the Dollar Tree as the mat. So we're going to have to do this by hand. And we also know this has real material on it. And if we want that to be sturdy and not be wrapped around on our table, we're going to have to do something with Mod Podge or glue. So let me grab a pill bottle. And you can use the same little idea doing beds and stuff. I have some beds. I don't use them a whole lot. Mostly like just to show that this is where people are sleeping in a dungeon. Like this is where the orcs sleep or the guards sleep or whatever. And I usually just use these for what orcs sleep on. Or I have little piles of hay that I made. But we're going to need a little Mod Podge. So let's get some of that. Get a spoon. scoop out some Mod Podge here. There we go. So we don't need a whole lot of paint, so we're going to do about 1/2 Mod Podge. I'm making a big old mess. That's alright. I'll clean it up. Or I won't. We're going to do about 1/4 of it is glue. We're using my washable clear glue because I have a giant bin of it. A giant jug of it I can refill that with. Let's get this cleaned up here. We don't need all that business going on. And then we're going to add some paint. And this stuff is probably made out of mostly brown materials because these places don't sell. This is about 1/4 of the mix right here. These places aren't going to be selling this top-notch blue fabric and stuff. You'd have to pay extra to have that kind of stuff custom made, most likely. Get something to stir. There's a toothpick. You don't have to throw this toothpick away. If you wipe it off on something you're throwing away, you can use this toothpick again for something else. You don't have to waste really too much anything. You can just kind of reuse stuff over and over and over again like I do. I did finally get rid of my piece of foam up here that I use for like all my little dots and dabs because I have flipped it over multiple times and peeled the paper off it and stuff, and it's just, you know, not doing what I want. So I made way more paint than I needed. Take this lesson, don't make too much of stuff unless you plan on saving it. But if I saved every little thing of paint I made, we would be in trouble here. Get a brush that is soft enough but is beat up that you can use it for terrain. And you're going to start on the sides first, getting under the blanket the best you can, okay? Where the blanket's not glued down, get that first. Because we're going to use that to put the blanket in place as it dries, okay? So get underneath there. Underneath it as best you can anyways. It's not going to be perfect. And when we want to clear coat this when we're done, so let's try to cover as much of that styrofoam as we can underneath. Doesn't have to be perfect. A thin layer of Mod Podge will protect you pretty good from that. So now we want to paint our blanket and stuff and get this top a little better. And you don't need this to be dark, rich brown when you're doing this step, because this is just a base coat, or a prime if you will. And this is just to protect it and to make it a little sturdier. But it's good to have it as a color that's darker than what you're planning on painting with. Now we're going to see how I'm coming around the sides here and pushing this down. And there's that Mod Podge under there. Alright, so this is basically one of the floor mats that I was showing in the video that you're sleeping on when you camp. I'm going to hit this with some blow dryer, and then we're going to come back and paint it. Thanks for watching.